Hello, we're going to talk about which Disney princesses could survive the zombie apocalypse, and there are some of them that aren't going to do so well, and there are some that are just absolutely amazing, can change the game. But let's go ahead and analyze which ones are really going to shift the dynamic and get to it. There's a lot of Disney princesses. We have a lot to get through, so let's get started. We're going to do this via tier list. Good old tier list. So S tier. S tier is the best, D tier is the worst. So if you are in the S tier, you're doing pretty well in the zombie apocalypse. But if you are D tier, less good. You're doing less good. So some people, say like, maybe Elsa with the ice powers work. Who knows? So I'm including all the official Disney princesses. I'm also including Disney princesses that were official but have since been removed from the official lineup. And then I'm including a few others that I think should count because they're technically Disney princesses. Elsa and Anna, for example, are technically Disney princesses, but they're not like the official Disney princess lineup. They're their own Frozen thing here. So let's get started. And let's start with Elsa because we brought it up. So Elsa is a very interesting character. I'm just gonna go ahead and just gonna put it right here for now. She's not B tier. But it's just to point her out. She has magic snow powers, which in a zombie apocalypse, let's be honest, that's pretty useful. She probably is able to isolate the entire kingdom of Arendelle by herself, being with her snow powers, and she has control over them after the events of Frozen 1. By the way, there's going to be some spoilers here for any of these movies that these princesses have been in, so just a warning that if you haven't seen any of the movies, you're probably gonna get spoiled by a little bit by it. She's extremely powerful, and she could probably prevent her kingdom of Arendelle, which I think is mostly a city, from being overrun by zombies simply by creating ice barriers, maybe by making a blizzard that makes it really hard to go through. There's one thing that I should point out. Elsa loves her sister Anna, right? Elsa and Anna are together, right? They're siblings. They're a pair. As soon as the zombie apocalypse happens, they're going to try to look for each other. And let's go lay down some rules for what the zombie apocalypse means. So one, there's no outside help, right? They can't get help from like allies or princes. If they're already, if I will go ahead and allow that if they are already in charge of a kingdom, they can get help from the soldiers underneath them, but no one that you commonly would consider like a main character in their series, right? So Anna and Elsa, I think together we need to be judged together because they're clearly going to help each other, right? It's not going to be something different, right? It's as if zombies appeared in the world that they're currently at. Right. So how will we rank them? How do we rank them? Well, I think that Anna and Elsa are A tier. And here's the reason why. The ice powers are a big one, good for protecting Arendelle, but zombies are known to be, mindless undead hordes that don't really care about the weather. They will continue to walk along until they eat somebody's brains. So how is this gonna work, right? Is the snow just gonna have to build walls? Is Elsa just kind of constantly have to monitor things? Elsa has a secret power. Elsa has a secret power that is actually more important than her standard ice abilities that you think. And here's the secret. Here's the secret power. That's right, it's Olaf! Olaf is the secret power. Oh my gosh. Now you're saying, Kevin, you said you didn't include any main characters. You're right. But Olaf is proof that Elsa is able to do something that truly is a game changer in the zombie apocalypse. And that is she can create life out of thin air, or rather life out of ice or snow, okay? Olaf didn't exist before Elsa brought him to life. Do you know what Olaf has that humans don't have? Probably an immunity to the zombie virus, infection, curse, whatever. Because Olaf isn't human. Olaf is literally made of water and a carrot. and some sticks, right? But none of that is human. There's no human component in there. So Olaf and any ice creature brought to life by Elsa is completely immune to the zombie apocalypse, right? And if you could create an army of Olafs to fight against zombies, as much as he may not be the most capable individual, an army of them probably can do something. And the fact that they're immune, that Olaf is immune to zombies, probably makes a big difference in protecting Arendelle from the invasion, right? Because if there's no risk of infection, there's no risk of soldiers getting infected and infecting everyone else out, right? It's just simply more and more snowmen, or ice creatures protecting the kingdom of Arendelle. And so I think that, generally speaking, Anna and Elsa, they're fine. They're living the good life, and they survived the zombie apocalypse. Okay. Elsa, just in case all the zombies are nice. So what I'm really kind of concerned about is that while Elsa could do that, the idea would be like, can Elsa be everywhere all at once? And probably not. Elsa's very powerful, but she's not, omnipotent. She, if the zombies come in from all directions, she can't simply encase everyone, right? She could probably encase the entire kingdom of Arendelle in ice all at once, but you probably don't want to, encase her own, subjects there. Okay, so let's talk. Let's go down the list here. So we think A tier. I think A tier, Anna and Elsa, because they go together. Giselle's from the Enchanted movie, I believe, unless I misremember that. Let's see. Giselle, Princess Giselle. Yeah, Enchanted. See, so Princess Giselle. This is the one that's both animated and live action. It's when a Disney princess comes to the real world and discovers things. But she's a classic Disney princess. She's this classic Disney princess that she could talk to animals. She sings very well. Does she have any powers or special abilities? Not that I know of. She can talk to animals. Talking to animals is great, but I really don't think that makes a big difference if you could talk to, birds and cockroaches when the zombies are coming after you. So I would have to say that Giselle is D tier. She gets eaten. She like that's it. That's it for her. And honestly, a lot of princesses fall in this category. I'm sorry, Princess Aurora, also D tier. Also gets eaten by the zombies. She is blessed by the fairies. She's also cursed by a fairy. So I think it kind of evens out, honestly. But she doesn't have any particular ability. I think she has some sort of very good ability regarding spinning wheels or something, or maybe that's a curse, and the ability to maybe wake up if kissed. But none of that necessarily is related to surviving a zombie apocalypse. We're going to also throw in Snow White in there. Sorry, Snow White. Again, you're very, very, wonderful and fair, and you're great at taking care of dwarves. But if there's no allies, like I said, no allies, no dwarven allies, I don't think Snow White's skill set cuts it in the zombie apocalypse. And we're going to also have to throw in Cinderella there as well, right? Again, she's very good at keeping house and cleaning, right? That's her entire backstory. She doesn't have a fairy godmother in this scenario. She gets eaten by the zombie apocalypse. So a lot of princesses kind of get thrown out right away as sort of, I'm not saying they're not doing so well. They're not doing so well. So good question. So Ariel, what about Ariel? Now, somebody say, Kevin, you have to divide Ariel between land Ariel and sea Ariel, right? Because one Ariel has legs and one Ariel has fins. On land, Ariel doesn't really have many abilities. She's known to be an amazing singer. She has great compassion. But Ariel is not necessarily a very physically combative person. And in sea, maybe she does really better. She does better because zombies tend to be on land. Well, I was thinking about this, and let's take a look at what a mermaid is. Mermaid Ariel. Ariel mermaid, okay, right? Mermaids are often described as half human and half fish. So I was thinking, does that mean that mermaids and mermen, for that matter, can mer-people be infected by the zombie apocalypse, by the plague or the curse? And I'm thinking yes. They're human enough that if a zombie bit a mer person, I think the mer person turns into a zombie. And once a zombie mer person appears or is created, now zombies have fins and they can swim all over the place. And that's not great. It's not great if a zombie has a mobility underwater, because then all other mer people have a better chance of getting infected. So I don't think that Ariel being underwater necessarily is a benefit, right? Mer zombies, right? I think that definitely makes it a problem. So I don't classify Ariel as differently between land and sea. However, I will put Ariel slightly above everyone else. Slightly above all these other princesses. And that's because Ariel is a hoarder. Ariel collects a lot of random stuff, right? All over the place, right? She has essentially a lot of different items that she's taken from the surface. Ariel might actually have a lot of equipment stowed away in a cave that could be very useful for an apocalyptic scenario, because Ariel, just saves everything from the surface, right? And I don't think that once she becomes a princess on the land, that changes. I think she still will continue to hoard certain items that would be useful in the zombie apocalypse. But that only gives her a slight advantage in that she has this ability to collect different things. What other princesses necessarily might be able to have a slight advantage in that result? I think Belle also belongs in C tier. Belle, similarly to the princesses below her, doesn't necessarily have a skill set related to anything to survival or combat. However, Belle is known to be extremely intelligent and has read tons and tons of literature across probably multiple genres. So in my opinion, I think that Belle likely has... Yeah, but we're not saying... Yeah, Belle doesn't have the beast, right? There's no allies. So I'm thinking that Belle probably does better, generally speaking, than her counterparts, simply because she's pretty smart and she's very capable, and having that ability to think through a problem might be really quite useful and helpful to her in the end. Okay, so Belle, I think she does very, very well. Let's talk about some combat characters, though. Let's talk about some characters that have some really capable, are good at combat. There's Merida. Merida's from Brave. That's a Pixar movie. She's the only princess on this list from Pixar that I know of. I don't think Wreck-It Ralph is Pixar. So, can she survive the zombie apocalypse? Merida has two things going for her. She can use the bow, right? She is extremely good at using the bow, so she has a combat-related ability, which is very useful against zombies, okay? The other thing is Merida has experience surviving in the wilderness, right? She spent a good portion of her movie surviving in the forest with her mom. Now, to be fair, her mom was a bear, and that helped a lot. But I think that Merida, probably picked up a lot of the tricks of wilderness survival. She probably she growing up in the Scottish Highlands probably has taught her a bit of survival herself, and she's again very good with the bow. I think she does pretty well in the zombie apocalypse. She's not like, Elsa and Anna level, where Elsa has ice powers, can save like a lot of people, but her combat abilities, her knowledge of her survival abilities makes her more suited to surviving the zombie apocalypse than maybe some of the other princesses there. And speaking of survival, let's add Pocahontas to that list, right? Pocahontas at that B tier list. Pocahontas, for as far as I know, doesn't have a lot of combat abilities, but she is probably the most capable of surviving in the wilderness out of all the princesses, bar none, right? She has a natural connection to the world. She has experience living off the earth. She could see the colors on the wind. I mean, she is able to move away from major population centers, which is likely where zombies would congregate, and live on her own in the forest or with a group of people and keep them alive, because she naturally is the best survivalist out of the entire group of princesses. So I think that even though she's not a combat character, she definitely has that ability to keep people alive. So yeah. And let's round it out the combat characters. We'll throw in Mulan as well. So Mulan, that's an easy one. Mulan was trained as a soldier. She knows how to use swords. She has martial arts. She knows how to use gunpowder cannons. She knows how to do archery. Right? She has undergone significant physical training. Out of all the characters here, she's actually probably has undergone the most martial training out of anyone. And she's known to be extremely cunning, right? She defeated the armies. The Huns invaded China by targeting the mountain to cause the avalanche to bury the Huns, right? She saved the emperor by, again, using trickery and cunning. She's actually extremely clever. And the only thing that's holding her back from being an A-tier character is the fact that she just doesn't have like some sort of extra ordinary ability to save things. But she is probably one of the most capable princesses for this scenario with the zombie apocalypse, right? Especially the fact that she's very combat capable. So yeah, she's a very high character arc. Let's go something a little bit more confusing. Like what do we do? Where do we classify Tinkerbell? Where do we put Tinkerbell here, right? As a Disney princess, right? She is a fairy. She technically classifies as a Disney princess because she was part of the Disney princess line up until I think they moved her over to the Disney fairy line. So where do we put Tinkerbell? I think that Tinkerbell has a couple things going for her. One, Tinkerbell is a fairy, which comes with magical powers, that implies. And two, Tinkerbell is really tiny, which I imagine makes it really hard for a zombie to catch her. However, I don't think that her own survival is pretty good, but I think that Tinkerbell is compassionate enough. You know, she may not show it. She sort of has this weird, like haughtiness to her, but I think she has this also a heart to her that she doesn't necessarily show all the time. That she wants to save more than just herself. She wants to save the people around her. And I think that what Tinkerbell does is, I think Tinkerbell's ability to grant people the ability of flight, to allow them to fly, puts her in A tier. Because zombies can't fly. And you're saying, oh, but what if they get pixie dust? If I recall Peter Pan correctly, the way you need to fly is you need pixie dust and you need a happy thought, right? You need a happy thought that brings joy, right? Zombies don't have thoughts. Zombies are mindless. That is the very definition of a zombie, is that they don't think, right? So even if they are sprayed with pixie dust, they can't fly. Tinkerbell could save tons and tons of people from a zombie apocalypse simply by granting them the ability to flight and then maybe flying them over to Neverland. Now, to be fair, nobody ages in Neverland, so that causes a whole new issue, and I don't know how much the island can support population-wise in terms of like food and such, but but Neverland itself is probably safe from the zombie apocalypse, because unless somebody willingly brings over zombies, and to be fair, I'm sure Captain Hook would think of the idea and maybe stupid enough to actually try it. But I think that for a long time, Neverland would be a safe haven from the zombie apocalypse, similar to how Arendelle would be a safe haven because people could fly there, right? And I think that's to me makes the difference between here is that A-tier princesses can guarantee safe havens for a group of people, for a large group of people, right? City to an island size. While B-tier heroes can maybe guarantee safety for a small community, and C might be able to survive on their own, maybe, and D don't survive. So that's kind of the break. That's what I'm breaking it down here. Is these differences? Okay, so what we have a lot of princesses left. Okay, we're at 19 minutes and 30 seconds here, guys. So if you are still watching this, go ahead and type in zombie in the chat, type in zombie in the comments there, and let me know that that you've made it, that you've accomplished and made it all the way through this video, and you've seen where these princesses lay out. We're getting to some pretty interesting princesses. I'm not counting animals. I'm not counting animal princesses, although Nala would technically count as a princess or a queen from The Lion King. But we're just sticking to the official Disney princess characters here. Okay. Let's get to someone who's interesting. Where do we put Vanellope von Schweetz? Vanellope von Schweetz is from Wreck-It Ralph. Technically speaking, she is a computer game or arcade game character. Okay, so can Vanellope von Schweetz survive the zombie apocalypse? This is a really tricky one for me. I honestly had thought about this, and I was not sure if I'd come up to a conclusion. So let's talk it out. One, if it's a zombie in real life, right, outside our game, that's just it. Zombie apocalypse, there's no power, everything shuts down. She's just gone. There's nowhere for her to go. She ends up in D tier. I don't think that's as exciting to put her in D tier. Because the world ends, right? And there's no electricity. That's boring. The premise is that zombies appear in the place that these princesses are, right? Right? Because all these princesses, they live in different time periods and different locations. So for Vanellope von Schweetz, that means zombies appear in her game or in a game that can reach her game. Okay? There's a couple things that is going well for her. If you die in your game, you come back. Right? So if she dies in Sugar Rush, she comes back. Zombies biting you, however, doesn't necessarily count as dying, in my opinion. It's sort of undying. You're sort of half alive and half dead. So she doesn't really come back. She doesn't have any allies, right? Like Ralph or Felix, right, in this scenario. So does she do okay? I think that Vanellope von Schweetz has a lot of trouble dealing with a zombie outbreak because of the fact that it could overwhelm her. She has a couple of things going for her. She's good at driving, right? So she's able to probably get in a vehicle and drive away very quickly, and she can glitch. And glitch is sort of like a sort of a mini teleportation. So in my opinion, I think this probably puts her as a B tier, in her own area, and that she might be able to protect a group of people, namely the fellow Sugar Rush drivers, simply by being able to get everyone in vehicles and maybe outspeed the zombies, like move to a different location where the zombies aren't. So set up and just constantly be moving around, and maybe the fact that she could use game mechanics to get rid of the zombies, right? She's from a driving and racing game, so if you ever played like Mario Kart, they probably have like shells that they could throw at people or bananas or whatever, things that you could use against the zombies that are fairly easy to grab from the racetrack, right, and then use against them. So I think she doesn't necessarily able to protect her game completely, but she might be able to protect a group of survivors with the fact that she is a game character. She has a bit of a glitch power, and she's an amazing driver. In fact, all of our friends are amazing drivers. Yeah. If she's in a different game that's not Sugar Rush, she does a lot more poorly because she doesn't have access to the same kind of resources. She ends up in like C, maybe even D tier. But I think that since we're counting it as the place that she's at, she's B tier. Esmeralda was counted as a princess. She's been removed since then from the Hunchback of Notre Dame. What tier does she fall in? I think that despite her ability to have like pretty good survival skills, her survival skills are sort of developed towards urban centers, right? Places where people are gathered. And I don't think necessarily for an apocalyptic scenario, right? Not for living on nature, maybe for scrounging around the city, but I don't think that she has much combat ability. I think that she ends up as D tier, as she kind of ends up as zombie bait. You know, I hate to say it, right? So, I don't like the fact that these princesses are dying, but we're being realistic. We're being realistic here on how they would do in a zombie apocalypse. Jane goes to the C tier. She has experience surviving in the wilderness thanks to Tarzan, and she's extremely smart. She's not very capable in terms of combat, But I like Belle. She's smart and she has some survival skills. Not a lot, because she's just kind of new to the jungle, to the wilderness. But she has some. And I think she's mostly used to living in Victorian England. So I think that she's slightly above these other princesses, but still C tier. Like maybe she survives, maybe she doesn't. Okay. and similarly, I'm sorry, Tiana, you also get in C tier as well. Tiana, I think, has an advantage that none of these other princesses have, in that Tiana is an amazing chef. She knows how to cook, which in an apocalyptic scenario is very important, because food is everything. You know, who cares about the zombies if you starve to death, right? That's it. That's it. You're just gone at that point. So food is going to be a critical component to any group's survival. And that skill, more than anything else, puts her at the C tier, right, rather than D tier. She's going to be highly valued by everyone around her, and they're going to do her best to protect her in her group. She doesn't have combat abilities, and I don't think frog powers, she has really any frog powers, but she does have this amazing cooking ability. And also, that probably gives her a little bit of discernment in what ingredients might be poisonous and which aren't. Like, she might be looking at this mushroom like, this is a poisonous mushroom, don't eat it, right? This is a non-poisonous mushroom, you can eat it. So I think that does help in terms of survival. It puts her a little bit above the other princesses, but, you know, still kind of at that C tier level. Okay, we're getting to some pretty interesting princesses here, guys, and I'm going to go ahead with the first one, who I think is a major game changer, and that's Raya. S tier. S tier. You're probably saying, Kevin, you're crazy. How is Raya an S tier princess? Sure, she's very capable. If you've seen Raya and the Last Dragon, which is an excellent movie, by the way, it was released during the pandemic, so you might have missed it. I recommend you go back and see it. But she is an extremely combat capable character. She knows martial arts. I believe she knows how to use certain weapons. So I think that she's pretty good. But you're saying, oh yeah, but all these other characters here knows to use weapons. Merida, Pocahontas, Merida, Mulan, they're just B tier. Why is Raya S tier? Here's the reason why Raya is S tier, and it has something to do with the movie itself. And this is spoilers, so if you haven't seen Raya and the Last Dragon, you know. But Raya has access to something called, I believe it's called the Dragon Gem. Raya, yeah. I don't know if I could show a picture of it. Let's see here, yeah. The Dragon Gem, okay. The Dragon Gem is this amazing artifact that basically allows Raya and the people that around Raya to oppose the, I forgot what the name of these shadow creatures. These shadow creatures that are attacking her, okay? And these dragon gems are related not just to the power of these dragons that kind of protect this land, but also to opposing these shadow creatures. And here's what I think is the most important part. When the dragon gem is put together, when all the pieces are combined together, they restore people from stone back into life, right? They return people from stone into life. Does that sound familiar? Does that sound familiar to you? That dragon gem may be one of the solutions to solving the entire zombie apocalypse, completely. It might be an actual cure for zombieism or zombie, I don't know what you call it, the zombie plague, right? The zombie curse, because it restores people back to their original forms, right? Now, it could be debated whether or not zombies and stone, is the same thing. If the shadows are kind of like the zombies, and so if they are like zombies, then the stone is really good at repelling them, especially when it's united together and then the dragon's playing. But I think that Raya has one amazing artifact which is united by the end of the movie and can potentially save humanity simply by the fact that it could cure everyone who's a zombie quite well. So I think Raya ranks S tier. Not only is she very combat capable, which is going to help her, but she might actually have the solution to this whole problem. And I think that's what makes Raya very, very, very powerful. Okay, we're down to 4 princesses. 4 more princesses to go, guys. Which one survives the zombie apocalypse? Which one of these 4 is least likely to survive the zombie apocalypse, right? We got Jasmine from Aladdin, Moana from Moana. We have Rapunzel from Tangled, and we have is Kita? Is the name Kita? I think it's Kita. Kita Atlantis. Yes, Kita. We have Kita from Atlantis. Okay, which one of these is least likely to survive the zombie apocalypse? Right. Here's who I think is out of these 4, which one is least likely to survive. And I'll tell you why. And it's Jasmine. It's Jasmine. Sorry for all our Jasmine fans out there. Jasmine is an amazing princess. Let's be honest here. But she doesn't really know much outside of the palace. In fact, that's the entire premise of her escaping the palace in Aladdin is she wants to get to know the people outside the palace in Agrabah, and she disguises herself as a peasant, as someone who's lower class. And she is capable of navigating it, but she does need a little help, and she doesn't quite know what it's like out there. And so I feel that her isolation kind of puts her at a big disadvantage. She's not very combat capable, she's smart, but I don't think she ranks as high as our C-tier princesses in terms of survival. I think given more experience, she ranks higher. And if you start counting maybe like the Aladdin television series and the Aladdin 2 and 3, then yeah, I think Jasmine gains enough experience to make it up to C tier, where she has now gone on enough adventures and experienced enough things to be strong. She still doesn't have the combat capability or the survival capability as the B tier princesses, but she becomes more knowledgeable on what to do in these situations. So I think that Jasmine, D tier in the first movie, and after the third movie, C tier. At the C tier. But pretty low. Okay. Okay, let's go ahead and talk about Kita. Kita is an interesting one. She's an A tier princess in the zombie apocalypse. And here's the reason why. Atlantean technology. Atlantean technology is extremely advanced, even for the explorers that found them. I think they're late 1800s, early 1900s. Atlantean technology has flying machines. Not to mention like a giant shield that lets them protect the entire city when it got flooded. So I don't know what Atlantean technology can do against a zombie apocalypse, but here are a couple of theories. One, Atlantis by itself is isolated from the rest of the world, whether as an island or under the water. So it's very difficult for a zombie apocalypse to kind of reach them because they would have to cross through the ocean. And crossing through the ocean is very difficult, right? In the Atlantean world, I'm just presuming there's just no mermaids. So one, people actually might be flocking to Atlantis if they know about Atlantis because they think it's a safe haven. It could actually be this jewel of safety and humanity amid a world of chaos and zombiness, right? Not only due to their technology, but due to their isolation. I think island nations would do very well in a zombie apocalypse because the zombies would have a very difficult time reaching those. And Atlantis, with its very advanced technology, would do even better than most island nations. So I think that Kita does extremely well in a zombie apocalypse because of her civilization simply being more isolated from everyone else and in the technology. I don't think anything that's Atlantean technology can cure the zombie virus from what I remember of Atlantis, but I do think that it does give them an advantage. Just like Elsa's powers do, or how Neverland is just isolated and you have to fly to it in protecting an entire community, right? It's just an advantage that nobody else has. And speaking of islands, who better than the Wayfinder herself, Moana? Moana lives on an island, and she's very good at traveling to other islands. So I have a feeling that the zombie apocalypse is very difficult, would have a very difficult time destroying Moana and her community. Because if the zombies were ever to reach her island, she would just sail it to another island. She would take everyone that she loves and sail to another island. And she taught them how to sail. She taught them how to wayfind, so they could easily do it. They could easily go to other islands and find a new place to live, right? She also may have some special powers due to her association with Maui, which might make her even more powerful than what I'm saying right here, right now, which is simply island hopping, and put her on like the equivalent tier to like Elsa and, you know, and such. But we don't know. We don't know quite yet on that front. But we do know that she is a wayfinder. She starts on an island. She has a lot of advantages here that that the other princesses don't have simply by her skill set and geography. She can survive, but she can do more than survive. She can thrive and keep an entire community alive, and that puts her at A tier. Yeah, she's very, very powerful. So I think that Moana is definitely at the top, which leaves us with Rapunzel. Where do we put Rapunzel? Rapunzel from Tangle. Okay. She has very long hair, or she has short hair. It really depends on where you put her, right? She fights with a frying pan, right? Rapunzel does have a frying pan. Rapunzel. Let's see if I spell this right. Frying pan. Okay. So some I don't think this gives her combat training. I just think that she's very good at using a frying pan. Okay, so this is not like Mulan level training. This is not Merida level archery skills, but she does know how to use a frying pan for combat. Here's what I say, guys. And this is the second S tier princess for the zombie apocalypse. Okay, Rapunzel, generally speaking, should be a D tier character. She should be dead like all the other princesses down here. She doesn't have much combat ability, frying pan not included. She's lived in a tower her entire life, so she has no survival skills whatsoever. She has barely talked with anyone outside of, you know, her stepmother. So she is several tiers lower than nearly every other princess in terms of, like, you know, the ability to like talk with people, survive, knows how to, you know, knows anything. She doesn't have a lot of life experiences, so I don't think she's extremely cunning because she doesn't have the experiences to back that up. That's why it was really nice that Eugene was kind of who had the life experiences could help her. So why do I make Rapunzel an S tier character right next to Raya? And that's because Rapunzel actually has a superpower that changes the game. Because if you recall, Rapunzel has magic hair. A magic hair that basically glows when she sings. And what does this glowing hair do? It restores people. It heals them. It gives them youth. It restores them back to life. Back to life. That's a big key factor there. What is not alive? Zombies. Zombies are not alive. So even though Rapunzel basically has no skill set that would allow her to survive the zombie apocalypse, she actually has the one power that may save the entire world by allowing her to solve the zombie problem by curing everyone, right? Now, to be fair, I think it would require her tears, and so she would have to cry a whole lot to cure everyone. So you might want to be chopping those onions all the time. And also stay hydrated. Make sure you stay hydrated. If you're crying a lot, you gotta stay hydrated. But a cure is a cure. A cure is a cure. And that's what none of these other princesses below S tier have. All of them are capable or not capable, but none of them have the ability to solve the zombie apocalypse, you know, and revert everything to the way back it was, right? None of them have the cure potential. But Raya, with her dragon gem, and Rapunzel, with her tears, with her hair powers, have the ability to turn zombies back into humans. I think Raya has the benefit of having a better method, because the dragon gem could probably affect a lot of people in an area, while Rapunzel would have to physically give tears to people, maybe even cry on people, although hopefully one could just simply distribute her tears, which I think is definitely doable. But both of them have that ability to solve this crisis by reverting people back from zombies into their human cells. And that's a big deal. That's a big deal, because infection can be bad. Infection can not only takes away your loved ones, but what if the person that you really need in your group to survive is infected, right? The person that's the expert in cooking, or the person who's the expert in engineering, right? All of a sudden, that expertise is gone. Well, not if you bring them back, not if you save them. So Rapunzel and Raya have that ability, to basically save the entirety of humanity, zombie by zombie, and revert the apocalypse back to its original, state before the apocalypse. Right. So these are the princesses. I think this is the list of the princesses that would survive the apocalypse. S is basically like solves the apocalypse. A can hold together like a city. Keep a city, a large community together. B might be able to hold together a small group of people and protect them. C probably dies, but maybe they survive on their own. If they meet up with a group of people, their chances improve a lot. D, they don't do so well. D tier, I'm sorry, they're pretty much goners. But that's just the scenario, right? This list would look different. This list would look very different for different apocalyptic scenarios, for different challenges. So I think that generally speaking, this is how it plays out. These are how the princesses play out in the zombie apocalypse. But hey, maybe I'm wrong. Let me know what you think. Let me know in the comments if you think, hey, Kevin, I think that, I think Mulan is much better at this, and she should be a higher tier, A tier, because she has military training and she could train everyone underneath her into elite combat soldiers. And if everyone's an elite combat soldier, then then a large group of people could survive, right? Let me know if you think maybe who does better, who does worse. I know a lot of you guys have favorites. I'm sorry if your favorites didn't do so well, but hey, you know what? There's always other challenges, and maybe they'll do better in the next challenge. Take care, guys. Love you all, and yeah, good luck to all the princesses out there. Hopefully the zombie apocalypse never happens. Goodbye.